Close your eyes now, my sweet friend. Let the world outside soften until it's nothing more than a distant hum. And allow my voice to wrap around you like the warmest blanket on the coolest autumn night. Breathe in slowly. Feel the air fill your chest, and breathe out everything that no longer belongs to you tonight. Good, just like that. You're safe here. You're held. And we're going to drift together into one of the gentlest, most heart-opening stories ever told, the life of Forrest Gump. Tonight I'm going to whisper every moment of it to you, every tiny detail, every scent of Alabama pine and salty ocean air, every tear that fell, and every quiet smile that followed, so that you can sink deeper and deeper into sleep, while your heart remembers what hope feels like. Imagine a single white feather floating on a soft summer breeze, turning lazily above the streets of Savannah, Georgia, until it lands, almost by magic, at the scuffed toes of a man sitting on a park bench in a pale blue plaid suit. That feather is where our story begins and ends, and tonight it's carrying you. Let it brush against your cheek, weightless and cool, as I lean in closer to your ear and begin. Listen to the faint rustle of leaves in the background, the gentle creak of an old wooden bench, the far-off sound of a bus sighing to a stop. All of it is here just for you. You might already know that the film was released in 1994 and swept the Oscars, winning 6, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Tom Hanks. But did you know that Tom almost turned the role down because he worried he'd be trapped forever, playing simple-hearted characters? He said yes only after reading the script in one sitting and crying through the last 30 pages. And here's a tiny secret. The little boy who played young Forrest, Michael Connor Humphreys, had such a thick real-life Southern accent that Tom Hanks decided to base his entire adult Forrest voice on the child's natural speech. Listen closely tonight, and you'll hear the same gentle Alabama drawl in both ages. It's one of the most beautiful continuity choices in cinema. Have you ever felt, even for a moment, that life is moving too quickly around you while you stay perfectly still on a bench, watching everyone else rush by? That's all right. Tonight we're going to slow the whole world down to the speed of a drifting feather. You don't have to run anywhere. You don't have to understand everything. You only have to let my voice carry you. Feel the soft fabric of the cushion beneath you. Imagine the faint warmth of sunlight on your arms, the distant scent of freshly cut grass and warm pecans. That's Greenbow, Alabama in the 1950s, where our story truly opens. A little boy with crooked legs and a heart bigger than the whole sky is about to put on his first pair of magic shoes. And you, sweet listener, are going to walk every step with him slowly, gently, until your own eyes grow heavy and your breathing matches the slow rhythm of mine. Before we step into his childhood, let me ask you something soft. When was the last time someone looked at you exactly the way Forrest's mama looked at him, with a love so fierce it could move mountains? Hold that memory close tonight. Let it keep you safe while the crickets begin to sing outside an old southern house and a mother whispers to her son that he is no different from anybody else. You are no different either. You are perfect exactly as you are, right now, listening to my voice. The screen fades in from white, just like dreams do, and we see that feather again, floating, and now it's time. Shh. Let your shoulders drop. Let your thoughts quiet. We're going all the way back to the beginning, to a little boy waiting for the school bus under a wide Alabama sky, and I'm going to stay right here beside your ear until you're fast asleep in the middle of the sweetest life ever lived. We are walking now, very slowly, along a dusty red clay road in Greenbow, Alabama, the kind of road that turns into soft orange mud when it rains and smells like warm iron and pine needles afterward. The year is around 1954, and little Forrest Gump, no more than 5 or less than 5 years old, is standing in the front yard wearing stiff new leg braces that shine like silver in the morning sun. You can almost feel the weight of them yourself. Cold metal pressing against tender skin, the tiny clicks and creaks every time he shifts his weight. His mama kneels in front of him, smoothing down the front of his little white shirt, her hands trembling just slightly because she has fought the world for these braces. Paid for them in ways no child should ever know about. She cups his round face and says, so softly you can barely hear it over the cicadas, "You're the same as everybody else, baby. You're no different." Her voice cracks on the word different, and you feel that crack inside your own chest tonight. Forrest looks up at her with those clear blue-green eyes that never learned how to lie, and he repeats, "No different," tasting the words like candy sweet because Mama said them. Do you remember a time someone believed in you so completely that the belief itself became a kind of medicine? Let that memory settle over you now like the gentlest quilt. A yellow school bus rumbles up, brakes hissing like an old dragon, and the doors fold open. The driver, a tired woman with cat-eye glasses, looks down at the boy in braces and shakes her head. "State law," she says. "No special needs children unless approved." Mrs. Gump straightens her spine, walks right up those steps, and you can almost smell the faint rose water she dabbed behind her ears that morning. Whatever bargain she makes happens off-screen, but when she steps back down, her lipstick is slightly smudged and her eyes are shining too bright. She kisses Forrest's forehead and whispers, "Remember what I told you." The doors close, the bus lumbers away, and little Forrest sits alone in the front row, metal braces clanking softly against the metal pole, staring straight ahead while every other child stares at him. On the playground that first day, the children circle like wary birds. "Can he even walk?" someone whispers. Forrest smiles his open, sunlit smile and answers, "I can run a little." They laugh until a girl with chestnut hair in 2 careful braids steps forward. Her name is Jenny Curran, and she is wearing a pale green dress that smells like line-dried cotton and honeysuckle. She takes his hand, small fingers threading through his, and says, "Come on, you can sit by me." In that single moment, the whole long love story of their lives begins, quiet as a held breath. Have you ever been saved by one small kindness that arrived exactly when you needed it most? Let that kindness visit you again tonight. Years drift by like lazy clouds. We watch Forrest grow taller but never straighter. The braces come off one miraculous afternoon when he outruns a pack of bullies on bicycles, legs pumping so fast the metal flies apart in silver pieces across the road. You can hear the ping and clatter of each buckle hitting asphalt, the whoosh of wind in his ears, the sudden unbelievable lightness. He keeps running straight into Jenny's arms, and she laughs the first real laugh we've heard in the film, bright as breaking glass in sunlight. From that day forward, running becomes his prayer, his language, his way of saying thank you to a world that finally let him move. High school football under stadium lights that feel like fallen stars. The ball is snapped, the crowd roars, and Forrest, who was told to run when the whistle blows, runs. He runs through tackles, through the marching band, through the goalposts and keeps going until coaches chase him down on the track. Bear Bryant himself offers a scholarship that same night. Feel the cool night air on your own face, the smell of popcorn and cut grass, the thunder of feet on bleachers. Forrest signs the papers with careful block letters, because cursive still feels too fancy for hands that only ever wanted to be useful. And then, almost too soon, graduation day. Jenny, in a white dress, Forrest's mama in her Sunday hat, both of them crying happy tears while Sweet Home Alabama plays somewhere in the distance. Jenny leans close and whispers that she's leaving on a bus that night, chasing dreams bigger than Greenbow. Forrest nods the way he always nods when he doesn't understand but loves anyway. She kisses his cheek, soft and quick as a moth wing, and disappears into the dusk. That night he sits on the porch swing, chains creaking, listening to crickets and feeling something inside his chest stretch thin like pulled taffy. Have you ever loved someone so purely that letting them go felt like the only way you prove the love is real? Breathe into that feeling tonight. Let it soften every tight corner of your heart. The very next week, a letter arrives from the United States Army. Forrest holds it up to the light, puzzled, and Mrs. Gump reads it aloud in a voice that tries to stay steady. Basic training in Fort Benning, then straight to Vietnam. She folds him into her arms one last time, smelling of vanilla and starch, and tells him, "If you're scared, honey, just remember you're my baby boy, and nothing can ever change that." The bus doors close again, same dragon sigh, different road. But before we step onto that bus with him, let me share one more little treasure. The famous bench scenes were actually filmed on Chippewa Square in Savannah, and the filmmakers had to remove the real benches and replace them with lighter fiberglass ones, because Tom Hanks kept accidentally breaking the real ones just by sitting down too hard in character. Imagine that. Gentle Forrest accidentally snapping ironwood with the sheer honest weight of his heart. Now the screen fills with green jungle heat you can almost taste, metallic and wet, and we hear the slow thump 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 of helicopter blades somewhere far away. Forrest is about to meet a man who will teach him that promises can outlive the people who make them. Close your eyes a little tighter. Let your breathing slow to match the gentle rhythm of my words, and come with me into the tall grass where the rain never quite stops falling. The jungle breathes around you now, warm and thick as soup, every leaf dripping, every boot sucking softly into red mud that smells like iron and rotting mango. It is 1967, and Private Forrest Gump sits on an ammunition crate, polishing his M14 with the same careful strokes he once used on his mama's silverware back home. You can almost feel the oil on your own fingertips, slick and dark, and hear the tiny metallic clicks as he reassembles the rifle without ever looking down. Because Bubba is talking, and when Bubba talks, Forrest listens with his whole body. Bubba's full name is Benjamin Buford Blue, and his voice is molasses poured slow over Sunday biscuits. He is describing shrimp every way a man can dream it. Shrimp gumbo, shrimp creole, shrimp salad, pan-fried, deep-fried, stir-fried, pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, pepper shrimp. The list goes on until the other soldiers laugh. But Forrest only nods, eyes shining, because Bubba is offering him a future after the war. A shrimping boat they'll buy together in Bayou La Batre, just the two of them against the whole Gulf of Mexico. You can taste the salt already, feel the sun on the back of your neck, hear the slap of nets hitting water. Forrest repeats the word shrimp the way other people say amen. Have you ever been given a promise so bright it felt like sunrise inside your chest? Let that sunrise stay with you tonight. Then the night explodes. Incoming rockets scream like tearing silk, orange fire blossoms everywhere, and the jungle turns into a roaring red tunnel. Forrest drops his rifle and runs. Not away, but toward the screams of his platoon. Mud splashes up his legs in cold, wet ropes. Tracer rounds stitch glowing lines across the dark, and he finds men one by one, lifting them over his shoulder like they weigh nothing. You can smell the cordite burning your throat, feel the heat of explosions on your cheeks, hear the wet thud of bodies hitting earth. He drags them through elephant grass that slices skin like paper, whispering, "It's okay, it's okay," the way his mama once whispered to him. When he reaches Bubba, his best good friend is lying against a fallen tree, blood dark on his chest, still smiling that soft shrimp smile. Bubba reaches up, touches Forrest's cheek with fingers already cooling, and says, "I want to go home." Forrest promises the boat again, voice cracking like a child's, but Bubba only shakes his head once, gentle, and dies looking at the stars he will never see from the deck of their boat. Forrest is shot in the buttocks. Running back for one more man, the bullet feels like a hot poker sliding home, and he collapses into the mud that now tastes of copper and tears. The last thing he hears before the medevac chopper thunders in is Lieutenant Dan Taylor screaming orders through the smoke, legs already gone below the knees, though nobody knows it yet. Weeks later, in an army hospital that smells of bleach and overcooked peas, Forrest wakes to white ceiling tiles and the soft squeak of nurses' shoes. His first visitor is Lieutenant Dan, wheeled in wearing hospital pajamas, face carved from pure fury. He tells Forrest he was supposed to die out there in that field, that heroes are supposed to die, not simpletons who ruin centuries of Taylor family military glory by saving the wrong man. His voice is sharp enough to cut glass, but underneath it you can hear the tremor of a man who has lost his future along with his legs. Forrest only offers him a Dr. Pepper from the machine, ice clinking softly in the can, and says, "I'm glad you're not dead, Lieutenant Dan." Dan wheels away without drinking, but the can stays on his tray for days. Have you ever tried to hate someone for saving your life, because living suddenly felt harder than dying? Let that question drift past like smoke tonight. You don't have to answer it, only let it soften. Rehabilitation is slow and humid. Forrest learns to play ping pong the way other men learn to walk again. One careful step, one careful bounce. The ball makes a soft tock-tock-tock against the paddle, a sound so clean it almost hurts. He plays alone for hours, sweat dripping off his chin, because every time the ball hits the table he hears Bubba saying shrimp, and every time it hits the paddle he hears his mama saying you're no different. The Army starts entering him in tournaments for morale, and he wins every single one without ever trying to win, just returning the ball the way he once returned to the jungle for his friends. Soon he is the All-American Ping Pong Team Champion, sent to China on a diplomatic tour where flashbulbs pop like tiny white fireworks and Mao's portrait watches from every wall. He meets President Nixon on the return, shakes a sweaty hand, and is offered a room at the Watergate Hotel as a thank you. That same night, the burglars break in on the floor below, but Forrest only calls the front desk to report, "Some folks making an awful lot of noise next door." Back home on leave, wearing his crisp dress uniform that still smells faintly of mothballs, Forrest takes a Greyhound bus straight to Jenny's last known address. The air inside the bus is warm and close, scented with diesel and someone's fried chicken dinner. He finds her in a rundown strip club in Memphis, waitressing in a tiny silver outfit under purple lights. that make her skin look bruised. When she sees him, her face collapses the way a child's does right before crying. They sit in a cracked vinyl booth. Forrest still in full uniform. Jenny barefoot and shivering, though it's 80 degrees inside. She asks if he's stupid or something, voice cracking like thin ice, and he answers, slow and steady, "Stupid is as stupid does, ma'am." She laughs once, a broken sound, then crawls into his lap right there in front of everyone and cries into his medals until the silver turns warm from her tears. They spend one night together in her tiny apartment that smells of cigarette smoke and gardenias trying to grow on a fire escape. Jenny falls asleep first, curled against his chest like a child, and Forrest stays awake watching moonlight move across her face, counting her breaths the way soldiers count ammunition. In the morning she is gone, leaving only a note that says, "I'm sorry," and $20 tucked into his pocket for the bus ride home. He stands in the empty room for a long time, feeling the silence settle on his shoulders like new snow. Here's a quiet little fact most people miss. The scene where Forrest takes the microphone at the anti-war rally in Washington and speaks for exactly 0 seconds because the cord is pulled. That was improvised. Tom Hanks stepped up, opened his mouth, and the sound guy actually yanked the plug at the perfect moment. The stunned silence that follows is completely real. Have you ever loved someone so much that watching them destroy themselves felt like drowning in slow motion? Breathe into that ache tonight. Let my voice hold you the way Forrest wished he could hold Jenny, gently, without asking her to change. The screen fades to soft rain on a hospital window, and we see Lieutenant Dan again, drunk and raging in a cheap New York hotel on New Year's Eve, shouting at God while fireworks explode outside. Forrest sits quietly on the floor beside the wheelchair, offering a lukewarm beer, waiting. Something in the waiting finally breaks through. Dan's voice drops to a whisper and he says, "You better be my legs from now on, Gump." And for the first time, the anger sounds more like surrender than hate. Close your eyes a little heavier now. Let the rain I'm whispering about fall inside your thoughts, washing everything clean. We still have oceans to cross and promises to keep, but for just a moment, rest here in the soft space between heartbreak and healing. The screen dissolves into salt air, so thick you can taste it on your tongue. Bright white sunlight bouncing off waves that slap gently against the hull of a single shrimping boat rocking in Bayou La Batre. It is 1972, and Forrest Gump, honorably discharged and clutching a handful of medals he never asked for, has kept the only promise that ever really mattered. The boat is named Jenny, painted in careful sky blue letters across the stern, and the first net comes up almost empty, just a few twitching silver bodies and one confused crab. Lieutenant Dan arrives on the dock in a battered wheelchair, hair longer, eyes harder, wearing a dirty army jacket despite the heat. He laughs until he cries at the sight of one idiot and one cripple trying to shrimp in a hurricane-prone bay, but he climbs aboard anyway because a promise is a promise, and because Forrest's quiet steadiness has become the only solid thing left in his storm-tossed life. Months slide by in slow montage, nets tearing on oyster beds, engines coughing black smoke, storms that turn the sky bruise purple and the sea into angry gray mountains. You can feel the cold rain stinging your own cheeks, taste the salt crusting your lips, hear the creak of ropes and the slap of waves against fiberglass. Lieutenant Dan screams curses at God every time the nets come up empty, shaking his fist at clouds that never answer back. Forrest only bails water, and mends nets and cooks pork and beans on a tiny propane stove that smells of burnt metal and childhood. One dawn, after the worst storm anyone can remember, the one that later gets called Hurricane Carmen, the bay is suddenly impossibly full of shrimp. Nets bulge so heavy the boat lists dangerously to starboard, shrimp pouring over the sides in shining silver rivers. Lieutenant Dan stands for the first time on new titanium legs, paid for by Bubba's mama's life insurance check, tears mixing with rain on his face, and laughs, the freest laugh you will ever hear. They name the company Bubba Gump Shrimp, and the money starts rolling in faster than either of them knows what to do with. Forrest invests in some kind of fruit company because the nice man on the bus said it was safe. That company turns out to be Apple, and suddenly he is a quiet millionaire who still mows the high school football field for free every Saturday morning because coach asked nicely. Have you ever received a gift so large you almost didn't recognize it as love? Let that gentle surprise settle over your heart tonight. He buys the old Current house back in Greenbow, the one Jenny grew up in where her father did things no child should ever survive, and has it bulldozed flat. In its place he plants a single magnolia tree and hangs a swing from the strongest branch. Then he starts running. It begins the way everything does with Forrest, simply without announcement. One morning he steps off the porch in brand new running shoes, hair already growing long, and just keeps going. Across Alabama, into Mississippi, through cotton fields, white as snow and deserts red as dried blood. People start noticing the tall man with the gentle face who never stops, who answers every question with the same soft sentence, "I'm just running." Newspapers call him a symbol, hippies call him a guru, television crews chase him with cameras that flash like lightning. He grows the beard that makes him look like Jesus, if Jesus had played offensive line. For 3 years, 2 months, 14 days, and 16 hours he runs back and forth across America, sleeping in ditches when he's tired, eating whatever strangers hand him through car windows. You can feel the rhythm in your own body now. Left foot, right foot, breath in, breath out, heartbeat steady as prayer. When he finally stops in the middle of nowhere, desert, hair whipping in hot wind, a single reporter dares to ask why he was running. "I think maybe I was running from something," he says, then changes his mind. "Or to something." He turns around and walks home, just like that. The crowds melt away confused, but you and I know the truth. He was running the way some people cry, long and hard and cleansing, until there was nothing left inside to run from. Did you know the running scenes were filmed in real locations across 7 states? And Tom Hanks actually ran 4 to 6 miles a day for months to get that exhausted but peaceful look exactly right? The desert sunset where he finally stops is Monument Valley at magic hour, the same place John Ford shot his westerns, and if you pause the frame you can see real tears in Tom's eyes because he had just learned his own mother was very sick. Back in Greenbow, the magnolia has grown tall enough for shade. A letter arrives one soft spring day, cream envelope, Jenny's handwriting shaky but unmistakable. She has seen him on television. She is tired. She is ready. Forrest drops everything and takes the first bus north, sitting by the window watching telephone poles flick past like heartbeats. He finds her in a tiny apartment above a laundromat that smells of detergent and old sorrow. Jenny is thin now, skin almost translucent, eyes huge in a face that still looks 17 when she smiles. Little Forrest, her son, their son, hides behind her legs, clutching a picture book. When the boy speaks, you hear the exact same gentle cadence as his father, and the whole room tilts with wonder. Jenny tells him about the sickness, the one with no name yet in 1981, but we know it's AIDS, and Forrest only nods the way he always nods when love asks him to understand something painful. He asks her to marry him right there on the cracked linoleum floor, kneeling like a knight in wrinkled khakis. She cries so hard her whole body shakes, but she says yes. They marry under the magnolia tree on a day so perfect it hurts. White folding chairs, Mrs. Gump's old friends in Sunday hats, Lieutenant Dan wearing his new legs, and a beautiful Vietnamese fiancée named Susan who smells of lemongrass and hope. Jenny wears the same pale green dress she wore the first day on the bus, altered to fit her fragile frame. Little Forrest stands between them holding the rings on a tiny velvet pillow. When the minister says you may kiss the bride, Forrest kisses her so tenderly the camera has to look away to give them privacy. Have you ever watched someone you love become light right in front of your eyes, like they're already halfway to wherever souls go next? Let that bittersweet ache breathe inside you tonight. It means you have loved well. The months that follow are quiet and luminous. Jenny teaches little Forrest to read on the porch swing, her voice growing softer each day. One afternoon she falls asleep in Forrest's lap under that same tree, sunlight dappling through leaves onto her closed eyelids, and simply doesn't wake up. He holds her for a long time, rocking gently, humming the little nonsense song she used to sing when nightmares came. The magnolia drops one perfect white petal onto her hair like a blessing. The house is suddenly too quiet, the kind of quiet that presses against your eardrums like deep water. It is late summer 1983, and the cicadas are screaming in the magnolias as if they understand loss better than people do. Forrest sits on the porch steps in the same spot where his mama once sat with him, holding little Forrest on his lap now, the boy's small back warm against his chest, both of them watching fireflies blink on and off like tiny lanterns someone keeps turning out too soon. Jenny's grave is a soft mound of fresh red clay under the tree she loved, covered in white petals that fall so constantly it looks like slow-motion snow. Forrest talks to her the way he always talked to her. Simply, honestly, out loud. Because silence never felt polite when love was involved. Every morning he wakes before dawn, makes grits exactly the way she liked them, a little too much butter, a little too much salt, and carries little Forrest to the school bus stop, under the same wide Alabama sky that watched him wait 40 years earlier. The boy wears tiny new sneakers and carries a lunchbox with a picture of shrimp boats on it. When the bus sighs away, Forrest stands there until it disappears, then walks back home past the empty swing that still moves sometimes when the wind remembers Jenny's weight. He writes letters to her on yellow legal pads, long looping sentences that fill page after page. He tells her about the boy's first lost tooth, about how Lieutenant Dan and Susan had twin girls who already know how to say shrimp in Vietnamese, about the way the magnolia smells stronger at twilight. He folds each letter carefully and tucks it into a shoebox under his bed, the same shoebox that once held his Army medals and Bubba's old photograph. Have you ever kept talking to someone after they left, just to keep the conversation alive inside your own heart? Let those unsent words drift gently through you tonight. They are proof that love doesn't need an address. Weekends are for visiting Mrs. G. Gump is fading now too, lying in the same iron bed where she once tucked Forrest in with stories about destiny. Cancer has made her small and bird-like, but her eyes are still fierce with love. She calls him close one afternoon when the light through the curtains is the color of warm honey, and tells him the last thing she will ever tell him. "It's time for me to go home, baby. You did good. You loved good." She dies holding his hand so lightly it feels like letting go of a feather. He buries her beside Jenny under the magnolia, two women who taught him every important thing he knows about being alive. Years compress the way they do when grief finally loosens its grip. Little Forrest grows tall and straight-legged, smart in ways his father never needed to be, reading books faster than Forrest can turn the pages for him. One evening when the boy is 10 or 11, he asks the question children always ask, "Do you think Mama's watching us?" Forrest looks up at the sky, turning peach and violet, and answers without hesitation, "She's right here, son. She never left." The boy nods, satisfied the way only children and dogs can be satisfied by simple truth. Another quiet fact most people miss. The scene where Forrest cleans Jenny's gravestone with his sleeve was not scripted. Tom Hanks did it on the first take because a real leaf had stuck to the marble and he couldn't stand seeing anything mar her name. The director kept the camera rolling and used it exactly as it happened. On the day little Forrest climbs onto the big yellow bus to go away to a special school for gifted children, wearing a crisp white shirt and a tie that makes him look suddenly older than tomorrow, father and son stand together in the red dust. The boy hugs him hard, the way Jenny once hugged him the day the braces came off, and whispers, "I love you, Daddy." The bus doors close with that familiar dragon sigh, and Forrest watches until the dust settles and the road is empty again. Then he walks home, slower than he has ever walked in his life, feeling every step echo inside his chest. Have you ever had to let someone you love grow beyond you, knowing the letting go is the last and greatest gift you can give them? Breathe into that tender ache tonight. Let it remind you that love keeps expanding long after our arms get tired. The final visit to Jenny's grave happens on a day so still the air itself seems to be listening. Forrest brings fresh magnolia blossoms and lays them gently on the stone, tracing her name with one careful finger the way he once traced hearts in the condensation on bus windows. He tells her about the boy's straight A's, about Lieutenant Dan's restaurant chain that now stretches from California to Maine, about how the Apple stock paid for everything they'll ever need. Then he tells her the only thing that still matters. "I miss you, Jenny. If there's anything after this, I'll be running to you." A soft breeze moves through the branches, and a single white petal drifts down, landing on his shoe exactly the way the feather landed on the bench all those years ago. He stands up slowly, joints creaking like old porch boards, and for the first time in his life he doesn't feel the need to run anywhere. The camera pulls back higher and higher until Greenbow becomes a tiny green patchwork quilt under an endless sky, and you realize the entire story has been a single held breath between the feather floating down and the feather floating up again. And now the feather lifts again, soft as a sigh, catching a current of warm southern air that smells faintly of magnolia and fresh-cut grass, rising higher and higher above the little town of Greenbow until the houses become toys and the roads become threads, and the people become memories stitched together with love. You can feel it brushing past your cheek one last time, cool and weightless, before it disappears into a sky so wide it could hold every heartache and every hope you have ever carried. Forrest Gump's story is over, but it is also still happening, inside the gentle rise and fall of your own breath, inside every small kindness you offer tomorrow, inside every moment you choose to keep going when the smart thing would be to quit. He never needed to be the smartest or the fastest or the bravest. He only needed to be steady, and somehow that steadiness moved the world. Let your body sink a little deeper into the bed now. Let your shoulders melt. Let your fingers uncurl. Feel the soft weight of the blanket, like Mrs. Gump's arms around you when you were small. Hear the faint creak of the porch swing that will always be there under the magnolia, waiting for anyone who needs to sit a while. Smell the distant salt of the Gulf, where a boat named Jenny still rocks gently at the dock, even though no one has taken her out in years. All of these places are keeping watch over you tonight. Here is one very last secret most people never learn. The very first thing Tom Hanks did when filming Wrapped was walk alone to the empty bench in Chippewa Square, sit down exactly where Forrest sat, and cry for 20 quiet minutes while the crew pretended not to notice. He said later it felt like saying goodbye to the best friend he never actually had. Maybe tonight that friend is here with you, sitting at the edge of your dreams, offering you a box of chocolates with one piece already missing, smiling that slow, open smile that asks for nothing and gives everything. Have you ever wondered what your own life would look like if it were told as gently as this one? All the running and waiting and loving and losing, laid out end to end like a string of soft white lights. It's all right if you don't know yet. You don't have to know. You only have to keep breathing slowly in and out, while the feather drifts and the crickets sing and the magnolia drops its last petal of the night. Wherever you are right now, you are loved exactly as you are. Crooked legs, straight A's, broken heart, full heart, tired eyes, hopeful eyes, doesn't matter. You are no different from anybody else, and you never were. Shh. Listen. The wind is moving through the leaves again, carrying the faintest whisper. That's all I have to say about that. Let it carry you the rest of the way into sleep, deeper, softer, safer than you have felt in a long, long time. I'll stay right here beside your ear until you're gone, and even then, the story will keep rocking you like an old boat on quiet water, like a mother's arms that never quite let go. Good night, sweet friend. Run if you need to, rest when you're ready, love every chance you get. The feather is still floating. You are still held.